Imagine waking up one morning and feeling completely fine. No stress, no deadline, no bad news. But within an hour, you're anxious, foggy, and can't string two thoughts together. You blame your mindset. You try to think positive. Nothing works. That is exactly what happens when your gut microbiome goes wrong, and most people never figure out why. Here's the part that should stop you cold. Scientists at the California Institute of Technology confirmed back in 2015 that over 95% of your body's serotonin, your primary mood-regulating chemical, is produced not in your brain, but in your gut. Your gut, not your head. That means the organ you've been blaming for your bad days, your brain, is actually just the passenger. Your gut is the one driving. And if you've been trying to fix your mental clarity, your anxiety, or your focus from the neck up, you've been solving the wrong problem entirely. Stay with me because what I'm about to show you changes everything. Here's what almost everyone believes. And I mean almost everyone, including people who consider themselves health conscious. The brain is in charge. Full stop. When you feel anxious, that's a brain problem. When you can't focus, that's a brain problem. When your mood crashes for no reason, your brain is misfiring. So what do most people do? They try meditation apps. They take nootropics, they read self-help books, they might even go on antidepressants that target brain chemistry. And the entire healthcare system for decades was built around this same assumption. Mental health equals brain health. Psychiatry, psychology, neurology, all roads lead to the skull. The gut? That was just digestion. That was just food processing. It had nothing to do with how you feel, how you think, or how sharp your mind is on a given Tuesday morning. That was the consensus. That was the textbook. And for a very long time, nobody questioned it seriously because the brain is the most complex organ we know of, and it made intuitive sense that it would be running the whole show. And look, it's not irrational that people landed here. Think about it. You stub your toe, the pain signal travels to your brain. You see something scary, your brain triggers the fear response. Every sensation, every emotion we experience consciously runs through the brain. So the brain-first model has a logical foundation. On top of that, for over a century, psychiatric medicine was built on studying brain neurotransmitters. When SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, were introduced in the late 1980s, drugs like Prozac, they worked for a lot of people. And they work by targeting serotonin in the brain. That felt like confirmation. Serotonin in the brain equals mood. Brain equals control. Case closed. Then there's the cultural layer. Every motivational message you've ever heard tells you to change your thinking. Think differently. Rewire your mindset. Visualize success. The brain is the hero of every self-improvement story. So the belief is reinforced not just by science but by culture, by pharmaceutical marketing, and by our own desire to believe we can control how we feel just by thinking hard enough. But here's where the story starts to fall apart. If the brain is fully in charge of your serotonin and your mood, then why did researchers at University College Cork find in 2019 that germ-free mice with zero gut bacteria, showed dramatically higher anxiety and depression-like behavior than mice with normal microbiomes? These mice had perfectly functioning brains, nothing neurologically wrong, but without gut bacteria, their behavior collapsed. Then there's this, the vagus nerve. It's the superhighway between your gut and your brain. And here's the detail that should make you pause. Approximately 80 to 90% of the signals traveling along the vagus nerve go from the gut to the brain, not the other way around. Your gut is sending more information to your brain than your brain sends down to your gut. That is not a side note. That is a complete reversal of the assumed communication hierarchy. And if you've ever had butterflies before a presentation, or lost your appetite when you got devastating news, you've already felt this connection firsthand. Your body already knew. Science is just catching up. Let's go deeper into the actual research because this is where it gets impossible to ignore. In 2015, a landmark study published in the journal Cell, one of the most respected peer-reviewed journals in the world, confirmed that specialized cells in the gut lining called enterochromaffin cells are responsible for producing the vast majority of the body's serotonin. We're talking roughly 95%. The researchers, led by Dr. Yano and her team at Caltech, showed that specific gut bacteria directly stimulate these cells to produce serotonin. No bacteria. No serotonin production signal. Then, in 2022, a major study from the University of Basel in Switzerland tracked over 1,500 adults and found that gut microbiome diversity was one of the strongest predictors of psychological resilience, stronger than sleep quality in the cohort studied. More diverse gut bacteria equaled better stress response, better emotional regulation, and sharper cognitive function. And a 2021 meta-analysis in the journal Neuroscience and Biobehavioral Reviews, which pooled data from 34 separate studies, concluded that probiotic interventions produced statistically significant reductions in depression and anxiety symptoms across multiple populations. This is not fringe science. This is peer-reviewed, replicated, published evidence that your gut microbiome is a direct lever for your mental state. So here is the real picture. Your gut is not just a digestion organ. It is a fully functioning neural ecosystem. It contains over 500 million neurons. That's more neurons than your spinal cord. Scientists now call it the enteric nervous system, and some researchers refer to it as the second brain, though honestly that framing undersells it. Your gut bacteria, the trillions of microorganisms living in your intestinal tract, are in constant biochemical conversation with your brain. They produce neurotransmitters, they regulate inflammation, and they influence the blood-brain barrier itself. When your microbiome is diverse and thriving, those bacteria help regulate serotonin production, dampen cortisol spikes, and reduce neuroinflammation, all three of which directly impact your mood, anxiety levels, and cognitive clarity. But here's what depletes your microbiome fast: processed food, high-sugar diets, antibiotics, chronic stress, alcohol, and even certain artificial sweeteners. According to a 2018 paper in the journal Nutrients, the average Western diet reduces gut microbiome diversity by up to 40% compared to a whole food diet. 40%. That's not a marginal difference. That is a gutted mental health system, and most people are living in it right now without knowing it. This is where everything becomes actionable and personal. If your mood has been unpredictable, if your focus disappears by early afternoon, if anxiety seems to hit you from nowhere, before you blame your thoughts, before you add another productivity hack, you need to ask one question. What is living in my gut right now? Because if your microbiome is depleted, you are biologically working against yourself. No amount of mindset work fully compensates for a gut that isn't producing the neurochemicals your brain needs. The research points clearly to 3 intervention categories. First, dietary diversity, specifically fermented foods like kimchi, kefir, and sauerkraut, which a 2021 Stanford study published in Cell found increased microbiome diversity after just 10 weeks. Second, prebiotic fiber from foods like garlic, onions, leeks, and green bananas that literally feed your beneficial bacteria. And third, and this is where a lot of people find the biggest and fastest shift, a high-quality multi-strain probiotic supplement. Not all probiotics are equal. You want clinically studied strains like Lactobacillus rhamnosus, Bifidobacterium longum, and Lactobacillus helveticus. These 3 specific strains have the most published human trial data linking them to reduced anxiety and improved mood. If you're serious about rebuilding your gut, look for a probiotic that combines these strains with prebiotic support in the same formula. Products that include inulin or FOS as prebiotics alongside the live cultures. That combination creates the environment where your gut bacteria can actually survive and thrive rather than just passing through. A depleted gut does not fix itself on intention alone. It needs the raw materials. Here is your exact starting point this week, not a list of 20 things. One protocol you can begin today. Start a gut reset. Day 1 through day 7. Eliminate ultra-processed foods, refined sugar, and alcohol. Add 1 fermented food daily, a tablespoon of kimchi, a serving of plain kefir, or a small portion of live culture yogurt. Begin a multi-strain probiotic in the morning with food. That's it. That's the first week. Then, in week 2, add a prebiotic food, a raw garlic clove in your cooking, half a green banana as a snack, or a leek in your dinner. You're not overhauling your entire life. You're restoring the biological infrastructure that your mental clarity runs on. Within 3 to 4 weeks of consistent gut support, multiple human trials report measurable improvements in mood stability and reduced anxiety symptoms. You're not waiting years. You're rebuilding fast. And once you feel the difference, and you will feel a difference, you'll understand why researchers at the Weizmann Institute called the microbiome, quote, One of the most powerful levers for human health ever identified. That's not hype, that's the science. Close the loop on what we opened at the start of this video. That morning fog, that anxiety with no source, that mental cloudiness that no amount of brain-targeting fixes could touch. That was your gut sending signals your brain couldn't decode. Now you can decode them. Now you know where to look. If this video shifted something for you, if it made you look at your mental clarity differently, share it with one person who's been struggling with anxiety or brain fog and can't figure out why. That one share could genuinely change how they approach their health. Drop a comment below telling me, have you ever noticed your mood or focus change after a change in your diet? I read every comment. And if you want to go deeper on the gut-brain axis, I've got a full video on the specific foods that rebuild microbiome diversity fastest. Link is in the description. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we go this deep every single week. Disclaimer. This video is for educational purposes only. Nothing in this video constitutes medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional before making changes to your diet, supplement routine, or treatment plan.